Welcome. What is Titan? A no-code platform for Salesforce. What can you do with Titan? You can build forms, portals, document generation, e-signatures, maps, automation, and a lot more. Security is really important to us. Therefore, we are HIPAA compliant, PCI SSC compliant, GDPR 508, and ISO compliant. So, what are you waiting for? Schedule a demo with us at Form Titan and let us build the impossible for Salesforce.
We were just a bunch of nerdy kids who ignored the haters. We took their ridicule and we built on it. And when some of us gave up, well, we built on that too. Built resilience, built on a mission to make things a little better every day until the users came. Then the haters were VCs who scoffed at our audacity. This just isn't the way things are done. But we kept building. Users turned into teams, turned into companies, running their entire businesses on our apps. Then the software giants came after us. We weren't proven, we weren't fully featured, our radical cloud model wasn't secure. But we built on. And today, as companies adopt the cloud to move faster, teams are finding themselves slowed down by each other's efforts. The skeptics are claiming we'll never develop innovation at scale. But now, DevOps have come to the cloud, ushering in a new era of transformation. Companies can release on demand across hundreds of environments, innovating faster with fewer conflicts and fewer disruptions. There will always be challenges. There will always be naysayers. And we'll build on.
Thank you everybody for joining. Today session is about Einstein, and we have Nikolai with us, and he is going to enlighten us about how we can leverage Einstein.
So my session today is on the ABCs of Einstein Next Best Action. So I'm Nikolai Johnson-Borelli. I'm a solution architect with SpringML. We are a silver Salesforce partner that focuses on advanced analytics and AI implementations. And you can also see my Twitter and my LinkedIn there. I try to stay pretty active on Twitter, all things Einstein and Salesforce. So here is our agenda for today. Start with a quick overview of what Next Best Action is. Then we're going to go into some use cases that we're seeing. And then I'll be going into development steps, and then finishing off with a demo and the art of the possible with Next Best Action. So I think the first question that we really need to answer. So what is Einstein Next Best Action? So it's a tool to display recommendations. And that's a really key point right there, because with a recommendation, ultimately the user has the power to follow through or accept that recommendation. And that's a key differentiating point there, because what is it not? It's not an AI tool that automates business processes. So it's not something like Process Builder or a Lightning Flow, which is automatically going to kick something off if certain criteria is met. Ultimately, it's a recommendation that the power stays with the end user, whether or not to accept. And lastly, first questions that we need to answer is, when do I use Next Best Action? We recommend to use it when you want to surface recommendations at the right time to help guide your users to make better decisions. So before I go into the rest of the presentation here, I want to cover some key terminology that I'll be using over the rest of this session. So first, a recommendation. So a recommendation, so this is, with Next Best Action, this is actually a standard Salesforce object. You should see it in your org, as every Salesforce org has it, and every Salesforce org actually can use up to 5,000 recommendations a month. And so a recommendation is processed by strategies, which we'll see is my next definition, and it's associated with flows. And you use a recommendation to recommend next action to the user. It can probably be a little bit confusing. So recommendation, that's the Salesforce object, but it's also kind of what the objective is. You also use it to recommend, lowercase, the next action to the end user. And action strategies, or also just otherwise known as strategies for short. So this is a process automation tool. If you've used it before, you'll probably notice that it looks quite a lot like a flow. And what the strategy does is it funnels recommendations through business logic to determine what to surface to user. So you'll probably have a bunch of recommendations that go into action strategies, and then you have various logic to decide, okay, hey, in this scenario, this one should appear for the user. And then lastly, flow. So this is just a standard lightning flow. And then this sets off the action when the recommendation is accepted. So that's what kicks off the automation, essentially, when the user decides to go through with that recommendation that you set up. I also want to cover some key use cases that I've been seeing from projects that I've been on in the consulting space. I don't want to read all of these off. I'm just going to cover two that I see most frequently. In terms of sales, we see a lot of like cross or upsell recommendations on opportunities. So like on an opportunity or even on an account, like what's the next most product that they're most likely to buy, and then you can build the recommendation strategy around that. And then in service, we also see a lot of interest in displaying recommendations, for your service agents. And I'll be actually going over a use case for this in the demo that I will cover. So before we get into the development steps, I think the first thing that we always need to do is ask ourselves some questions in kind of in a discovery phase. So the first kind of question that you need to answer yourself is, what business am I solving for? What business problem am I solving for? If you want to display recommendations to your end user, if you want to guide them, there always has to be a problem that you want to overcome. So that might be something like you're seeing very low cross and upsell opportunities in your organization. Or you might see that there's a low customer satisfaction scores on your cases. Now, how do I solve these problems? Next question that you need to ask is, what recommendations do I need to make? And you'll notice that there's a logical progression with how these questions go. So you might want to recommend, I want to sell product X, or I want to send a product technician on site. And now the last question you need to ask yourself is, under what conditions do these recommendations apply? Well, I want to sell product X when the op has product Y. So that would be solving the business problem of low cross sell. Or I want to send a product technician on site when the product is under warranty. That's going to solve the business problem of low CSAT, or at least help it out. And it's important with these conditions too, because not in every circumstance you're going to want to send a product technician on site. So it's key, before you go into the development steps, to figure out, okay, when exactly do I want this recommendation to surface, and like under what conditions does that apply? So one of the most common questions that we get when dealing with next best action is, okay, so why do I want to use next best action and not just full automation? Why shouldn't I just build a process builder, or why shouldn't I just build a lightning flow? So the three biggest reasons that we say are, number one, is that sometimes there's multiple options for the next best action to take. It might not always be so black and white on what the next best step for your end users to take is. And oftentimes there's many good choices, And then this is a good use case because then it can surface kind of all of those different options, and ultimately it's up to the end user to decide, which one to move forward with. It could also be, that not all of your data is captured in Salesforce. Maybe some data is captured in an external system, and ultimately, in a perfect world, everything would be in Salesforce, but that's just not that's just not how it is for most companies. So if there's some data that's captured outside of Salesforce, maybe the end user, they know some detail from data that's not captured in Salesforce, or maybe, hey, maybe it's just in their head from having worked with a customer for a long time. So that would be another good use case. And sometimes, ultimately, you want the final decision to stand with the end user. When you throw around the term AI these days, it can scare some people. But with this, at least ultimately that final decision stands with the human. All right, so let's move on to the development steps here. So I'm going to be going through the development steps, and I'm going to be using a mock use case, a service-related use case where I want to build a recommendation to send a service technician on site for cases. Maybe I'm calling in and I'm saying, hey, my product is broken. I need someone to come over and fix it. So the first thing you would need to do is create a flow. Keep in mind from my key definitions that this is a lightning flow. So what we see here, we just have, this is a screen flow where we have like a yes or no decision tree. If the user would, if yes is selected, then we would just update the status and create an event to send that technician on site to the customer. The next step is to create the recommendation. As a reminder again, this is a standard object within Salesforce that you would create records for. So what I'm doing here is I'm creating a new record, calling it dispatch to service technician. That description that I write there, used to dispatch service technician, that's kind of key there because that displays as to the end user as some help text, excuse me. So it's key to make that very meaningful. You can add an image as well, which I always recommend to do just to make it more clear exactly what that recommendation is about. And then the last key piece here is that the action. So this relates back to that flow that we created in the first step. So that service technician action, it's the lightning flow that we created in the first step. The third step is to create your action strategy. So this is what funnels your different recommendations into what's ultimately going to be surfaced to the end user. And that essentially is the output that we see in the screenshot here. So we can see actually that very bottom row, the load send replacement is, the load service technician, the one towards the middle there, that's the recommendation that I created in the previous step, and then I have a filter node. And I will be going over what some of these different nodes mean in the next section here. So I'll be going into that in more detail. And then the last thing that you need to do is you just need to make display the recommendations to your end users. This is there is a next best action card that comes by default that you can just easily add to a lightning page. So in this instance, what we see here, that recommendation, it would be surfaced on the case object. Okay, so I think the next thing that we need to do here is we need to go over some more elements in the action strategy. Keep in mind that was the third step that we covered Oh, you can still hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. And then, so the load element, so this is what loads recommendations that
You
you
need to
want.
share the screen again. You need to share the screen again.
Okay,
Cool. Go
that,
back.
okay. So the load element, this loads recommendations that you want to surface to your end users. And the key piece here is, do you see in the load recommendations when all conditions are met? So that ID, it matches the ID of the recommendation record. So you can just take that from the URL of that recommendation record. And just as a reminder, I will be going showing this in a demo. So the next one I want to review is a filter element. So what a filter element does is it filters recommendations based on criteria. And as a tip, we can use record.fieldName to filter based on logic from the object a recommendation will go on. So in our case here, we are filtering, we have custom fields on the case object called repairable and under warranty that we want to base this off of. So we want to send a service technician on site if it's repairable, because if it's not repairable, then the service technician is not going to be able to do anything. And we also want to make sure that it's under warranty, because if you bought it 7 years ago and the warranty has expired, well, you shouldn't be sending a service technician. It's probably just time for them to buy a new product. And then the last one I'm going to review here is a branch selector. So what we can do here is we can filter multiple branches and create unique expressions for each. So the key thing that we need to focus on here is the branch 1 and the branch 2. So what I did there is I've just got 2 load elements, and then I have conditions on when they should surface to users. As you can see, the differentiating point here is I am surfacing one when an upgrade isn't available, and then the other when the upgrade is available. So let's go over, here's the demo use case that I'm going to cover during the demo that I'm going to show. So let's imagine that we are Astro's Appliances and that we sell kitchen appliances, and we're facing an issue with helping customers on cases appropriately. We've been saying that our CSAT scores have been pretty low, which is definitely something that we want to fix. So let's see how we can use Next Best Action to fix this business problem. And so what I did here is I actually just have a video, and then I'm just going to talk to what I'm doing in the video. Okay, so here I have a case about a broken refrigerator. We can see that it's under warranty and not repairable, and that the next best action is to offer a refund. I also want to add one to send a replacement. I'm going to the flow here. I don't want to spend too much time on this since flows aren't unique to Next Best Action. It's a screen flow. If it's accepted, it's going to create an opportunity, and it's going to create an event for one of our technicians to bring that kitchen appliance to them. And we can see if it's not accepted, we just say that we're not going to send a replacement. The next step is that we need to create the recommendation. So let's just call this send replacement. I'm giving it a meaningful description here, because keep in mind again that this is visible to the end user, when they're viewing that record, that case record. So we want to make sure that it's clear what this recommendation will do. Now I'm just going to upload an image here. I just found a replacement icon online. I'm just going to say, okay, I can accept, to choose to accept or reject that. And then the action, this is tying it to the flow that I just created in the previous step. So boom, now I'm clicking, just click save. The third step I need to do is add this to the action strategy. So I've already created one, but now I just need to add that send replacement recommendation. So I just drag the element out, just give it a name here, send replacement, and then here in the filtering the recommendation records, I'm going to choose ID, and then I'm just going to take the ID of that record that I created, paste it in there. I forgot to set the operator to equal, so let's do that. And then now we need to filter it because we only want to filter it under certain circumstances. So let's just give it a name here. And then, so to do it based on something on the case record, I do $record dot, and then I've got a custom field repairable, because I only want to send it, I only want to send a replacement if it's not repairable. Because if it is repairable, you probably just want to send a service technician or something. And I'm also only going to send a replacement if the item is under warranty. So I make a check for that. So this one, it's going to have to be true. So if it's not repairable, but under warranty, I send the replacement. And look, now I just drag the load down. So the load goes into the filter replacement, and then it goes to the output. So let's go back to that same case that we were looking at. So I hit refresh, and now notice that that other recommendation is there about the sending the replacement. So I want to click next here, and I'm accepting it. And now I just click on refresh, and now notice how that event is there to deliver the replacement. That's going to go out to one of our technicians, just to let them know that they need to send a replacement. So that's just an example there of how we can use Next Best Action to surface both of those recommendations. And once again, I just want to make it clear there that the end user was able to select between the sending the replacement or offering a refund, but they maybe because they were on the phone with the customer and they said that how much they really loved the product and that that they were just disappointed that it broke down, then I'd want to send a replacement instead of offering a refund. Okay, so next I'd like to cover what is the art of the possible with Next Best Action. How can I take Next Best Action to the next level? So there's three things that we have here. So number one, when you use analytics with Next Best Action, and that could be either Einstein analytics or even a standard dashboard could work as well. You can make even smarter decisions with both of them together. I'll be showing a short demo kind of these as well. But just imagine that you're viewing, like, say, an account record, and that you have like a dashboard that just shows you some key KPIs around that account, and then based on what you see there, you can know kind of what Next Best Action recommendation that you should accept, excuse me. Next, so custom development with NBA. So Apex actions are supported. I'm not a developer, so I can't really go into these too much, but I do know that what you can do with the custom development around that is pretty powerful. And so the last one, number 3, and my personal favorite, is that you can build an AI-powered recommendation by using Next Best Action together with Einstein Discovery. If anyone out there isn't familiar with Einstein Discovery, it's a tool that you can use to build predictive models, and then you can deploy those predictive models to the platform. So what I mean by that is you could build a predictive model around the likelihood of an opportunity to close, or the likelihood of an account to buy a certain product. And considering how powerful that this could be, using kind of next best action based on a prediction, an AI prediction. I've got a video here that shows this in action, and this is a little bit of a different use case. So for this use case, let's put ourselves in the shoes of Cloudy's computing company. And let's imagine that we sell software licenses. And we've been facing an issue with customer churning, meaning that a lot of our customers, they haven't been renewing their software licenses. So I've been losing a lot of revenue around that. So let's see how this demo is going to show how we can use Einstein Analytics, Einstein Discovery, and Einstein Next Best Action together to build a truly intelligent CRM. So once again, I just have a video that I recorded here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to talk to this video. Okay, so I'm Cloudy. I'm logging in for the first time today. Since customer churn is my most important KPI, I've got an analytics dashboard embedded on my homepage. I've got a chart here that shows my high-risk accounts. I've only got one, and we can see here there's this one account, Blick & Sons, that has a predicted churn of 87%, which is super high. So let's see what I can do to decrease that. So 88% predicted churn, and those are some leading causes: low license utilization, support level, and onboarding level. And there's two recommendations Einstein has on how to improve it: change support level and change onboarding level to level 3. And those next best action cards, let me just pause it here for a second. So those are connected with the how to improve this section. And actually, I'm just going to say the video's moving a little fast. Those is connected with what we see in the how to improve this section. I want either offer platinum level support or offer free on-site training. So in today's times, offering free on-site training doesn't make much sense since no one's actually working in an office. So I'm going to say offer platinum level support, and I'm going to do it at 100% discount. Because since this customer has such a high likelihood to churn, I want to do everything in my power to make sure that they stay on as a customer. And I think what I did there was really powerful, because I used a predictive Einstein Discovery card, which predicted an account's likelihood to churn. Let me maybe just, while I'm talking through this, just play some of it over again. And because that predicted churn percentage, it's a custom field on the object. And how to improve this, I can have that as a custom field as well. So we can include kind of what we have there, within our filter nodes on the action strategy. So in this case, we probably want to bucket it into like high, medium, or low. And say if the score is above like an 85, the predicted churn percentage that is, then I'd want to take a really drastic action, such as offer platinum support or offer free in-person training. Yeah. So that shows an example of how we can build, have a really powerful use case right there of using analytics, discovery, and next best action together.
We got a couple of questions, so I'd like to take them.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Cool. So the first question came from Ted. Is this used in technical support, like customer calling to Dell tech support to go through a decision tree?
Yes, we have implemented Next Best Action with use cases like that before. Because a lot of the times, when you're on the phone with a customer, you might be using Salesforce to kind of update some fields, based on what the customer is telling you. And then, the screen, the recommendations that are surfaced will change based on that. So yeah, we've seen a lot of interest in that use case.
Cool. And Amity was asking, do you need to know any programming language to be successfully using the Einstein?
Nope. Yeah, that's the great thing that I love about Einstein Next Best Action, is that you don't need to use programming language. Like, as you saw kind of in that, when I was going through those development steps and I was showing that video, was that, it was all point and click.
Yeah, but you can actually use programming language. I came across a developer actually who used Einstein APIs to develop a web application to check the sentiment of Twitter messages.
Exactly. Yeah, so, it's definitely something that you can do. But the great thing is that there's also a lot that you can do with just point and click.
Cool. Would you recommend any certification for around Einstein?
Yes. So it's about, I believe it was like last January, the Einstein Analytics Certified, no, sorry, one sec. It's called the Certified Einstein Analytics and Discovery Consultant Certification. Yeah, it's on the consultancy pass. That's actually it's a certification that I have. So I would definitely highly recommend that one. So nice. If you're interested in Einstein, that's probably the one that you want to pursue.
Cool. Next question came from Ted again. Can NBA be presented to community external user?
Yes, yes. So it can also be surfaced to the community. I believe that there might be a separate license associated with that. I'm not sure off the top of my head, to be honest, but I know that it is possible.
Cool. And I'm sure we must have a trailhead module. Do you have anything on top of your head that you can remember? And
yes. Yeah, so I forget what the exact name of it was, but there's a good one with, if you would just type in Next Best Action, that's pretty helpful. It helped me learn when I was learning about a year or so ago.
Cool. So now we get more people to answer this one. I mean, they have answers now. Cool. I believe we covered all the questions.
Thanks, everyone.
So thank you very much, Nikolai, for the presentation, and thank you everybody who joined from different location